So guys, tonight, like I promised, we're gonna go over the exam papers together, okay? So we're gonna check, okay, so here's the exam paper, read the following instructions, etc. So section 1, responses to situations, and this is worth 10 marks. Write in Spanish, highlight it, in Spanish, the following information required for each of the situations given below. Be sure to use only one sentence. Now I highlighted Spanish because some of you guys actually answered it in English, but so you meet a new friend at school. How do you greet him? We went through this over the course of the week. May not have been solid when you guys wrote the exam, but you should be able to answer it now. So you could either say, well, it's a new friend, right? You could say buenos dias. You could say buenas tardes. You could say buenas noches. Okay, because it's a new friend, it's somebody that you're not familiar with. But if you guys were also to say hola, I honestly would not have an issue with that because you're greeting the person, all right? And it's somebody at school, a new friend. So second, you arrived home from school in the afternoon. What do you say to greet your parents? Keyword here, key part of the phrase, in the afternoon. So we know what we're saying. We're saying time of day. We're saying buenas tardes. Okay? Buenas tardes. Remember the A and the S for the tardes and the noches. And the morning is the O. The morning is the O. And the A is for the tardes and buenas for the noches. Okay? So far, based on what we covered in class, you've answered question 1 and 2. Let's move on. Tell your sister you are feeling well. How do you tell somebody you are feeling well? You are feeling well. Okay. We did not do the verb. We didn't do the verb sentarse. So we're going to actually just use what we learned with the estoy. Okay. So estoy bien. Okay. So far, all of these things we've covered in chapter 1. Your best friend introduced you to her father. Interesting. Best friend introduced you to her father. What would you say to express pleasure at meeting him? What would you say to express pleasure at meeting the best friend's father? You, as a guy, like I said in class, you will always say encantado. All right. You can also say, which is the easy way out, mucho gusto. Okay. Your teacher wants to know how you are doing today. How you are doing today. What does she or he ask you? Now remember what I told you guys, when writing questions, remember your punctuation marks just like in English. So this person will be asking you a question. And like I said, when saying how in Spanish, it's como, but with the accent on the O. So como, how do you ask somebody how they're doing? Como estás? Don't forget your accent on the A. Okay? Now, if you had to respond and then also ask the teacher how they were doing, how would you ask the teacher how they're doing? For all of you who remember, because it would be you directing it towards a formal person, someone in authority, it would be a formal greeting, so it would be como está usted? Or, like I said, it could also be como usted está? Or it can also just be como está. All right? But I always encourage you guys to write the article, okay? this is not wrong. The como está by itself, it's not wrong. But I encourage you guys to write the article so you can remember what conjugation of the verb that you'll be using, okay? Same thing for the como estas. You could say como tú estás. And you could also say como estás tú. All right, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Remember what we said whenever you're saying the word tú in Spanish, you always use the accent on the accent is always used on the U. Okay, so now we're done with that section. We're moving on to section 2. Reading comprehension. Read carefully the following selection. Do not translate but answer the question in English. Right? Be sure to identify by number the questions to which your answer refers. Yo soy Pablo y esta es mi familia. This line, even though we're not supposed to translate it, but you guys should at least understand what that line means. We've gone over that for the week. Hay 9 personas en mi familia. Mi mamá se llama Anabel y mi papá se llama Marcos. Tengo 2 hermanas. Ellas son muy amables. Mi mamá es inteligente y es maestra. Mi papá es estricto y es doctor. Tenemos 2 tíos, una tía y 2 primos. Mi prima es traviesa, linda y tiene ojos verdes. Mi primo es juguetón, alto y divertido. Es una familia pequeña, pero todos nos llevamos muy bien. Okay? So, the first question for 2 marks is, how many people are in the family? The first question for 2 marks is, how many people are in the family? Now, if you guys read carefully through the dialogue, you will actually see that in the second sentence actually says how many people. He says, hay 9 personas en mi familia. Okay, so how many persons are in the family? We can respond, well, we will respond by saying there are, so we said respond in English. Okay, there are 9 persons in the family. I know usually when we do reading comprehension, it's advised that we respond with complete sentences. What is the name of the mother and father? Okay. Mi mamá se llama Anabel. So mother, just to speed up the process. Mother, Anabel, and father. Let's see if you guys can guess it. And it's written, it's not even a guessing, it's in the same sentence. Mi mamá se llama Anabel y mi papá se llama Marcos. How many uncles does Pablo have? The next line says, dos hermanas. How do you say uncles in Spanish? The word for uncles in Spanish is tíos. So we're going to look for somewhere that talks about tíos and the number of tíos. Okay, so tenemos 2 tíos. How many uncles does Pablo have? Pablo has 2 uncles. Great. How many aunts does Pablo have? Tenemos 2 tíos, una tía y 2 primos. Pablo has 1 aunt. How does Pablo describe his cousin? How do you say cousin in Spanish? The word for cousin, if you guys remember, is primo or prima. All right? In this case, Pablo does not use the word primo. So it tells us that his cousin is actually female. Great. How does Pablo describe his cousin? He says that mi prima es traviesa, linda y tiene ojos verdes. Okay, so I'm not too familiar with this word traviesa. I need to go check it out. However, linda y tiene ojos verdes. So, what Pablo is pretty much saying is that his cousin, let me see. I'm just checking my Spanish dictionary translator. Okay. Traviesa is naughty. Okay. So how does he describe his cousin? How does Pablo describe his cousin? Now, note there are 3 marks here because Pablo actually says 3 things. He says traviesa, which is naughty. He says linda, which is pretty. And he says tiene ojos verdes. So she has green eyes. She has green eyes. Green eyes. Green eyes, guys. Green eyes. Okay. How does Pablo describe his father? Pablo actually describes where he speaks about his dad. He says, mi papá es estricto, he is doctor. So 2 marks because there are 2 things. 1, his father is strict. And 2, his father is a doctor. All right. So as you guys see, it's not too difficult as long as you've been familiar with the words and how the sentences are structured. So how does Pablo describe his sisters? He says, let me see, tengo 2 hermanas, ellas son muy amables. So he says for 1 mark, his sisters are very amables is what? Friendly. Okay. It takes care of section 2. Section 3, fill in the blanks with the correct form of the color. Alright. Soy Ramona y tengo 12 años. En mi clase de español hay muchos libros. The books are blue. How do we say blue? The word for blue in Spanish is azul. Right? But we're talking about hay muchos libros, plural. So the blue would actually be azules. Muchos libros azules. Y papeles, is it el papel or la papel? Gotta remember. Libro as well, is it, well, fine, fair enough, it's possible. Y papeles, white. How do you say white in Spanish? White in Spanish is the word blanco or blanca. So, papel. Is papel masculine or is papel feminine? The word papel. Do you say el papel or do you say la papel? The answer for that question is actually el papel. The word papel in Spanish, which is paper, is actually a masculine word. So you say el papel. So if you're saying el papel, and you're saying white, you'd use blanco. But because it's plural, you would say papeles blancos. So like we said, the adjective should coincide with the singularity or the plurality of whatever object it's describing, okay? En el escritorio de mi profe hay una pluma red. How do you say red in Spanish? Rojo or roja. Okay. Since we're talking about una pluma, it's 1 pen, but because it's feminine, the word pluma is feminine, we're going to use una pluma roja. Okay. We're not going to say una pluma rojo. It's not going to make, it doesn't make grammatical sense. Una pluma roja. Y un lápiz black. So the other thing is we need to know these words. Is the word lapis masculine or is the word lapis feminine? First of all, do you guys know what lapis means? Lapis means pencil. And the word lapis in Spanish is a masculine word. Alright? Well, actually, we can even see it here. There was actually a hint. Un lápiz. It didn't say una lápiz, it said un lápiz. Alright? So un lápiz black. The word for black in Spanish is negro or negra. So un lápiz, masculine singular, so this one would be negro. Hoy llevo una blusa purple. How do we say purple in Spanish? Purple in Spanish is morado. Morado. So if you're going to say morado or morada, but we're talking about una blusa, singular, female. So una blusa morada. If it was many blouses, we'd say unas blusas moradas. Or you could say dos blusas moradas. Tres blusas moradas. Con unos pantalones. The word for green is what? Verde is the word for green. But pantalones is actually, in this case, it is plural. So we're going to say verdes. Okay, we don't say unas pantalones verde. We say unas pantalones verdes. Okay? So it has to agree with the number of the objects that are there. Fill in the blanks with the words from the box. 8 marks. Tienes, tengo, tienes, soy, es, vivo, nombre, eres. Okay? Yo, something, cuatro hermanas. What is it saying? If we're going to look at in terms of yo, something, it has to be a word that goes with yo. There are only 3 words that are actually conjugated in the yo form here. There's tengo, there's soy, and there's vivo. Everything else is not in the yo conjugation, right? So I can say, does it make sense to say yo soy cuatro hermanas? I am 4 brothers. That doesn't make any sense, right? So we're crossing out the soy. Yo vivo cuatro hermanas. I live 4 brothers. That doesn't make any sense either. So it actually leaves us with tengo. Yo tengo cuatro hermanas. I have 4 sisters. Okay? Mi hermano something 14 años. Right? Using the same method that we had used earlier. Mi hermano something 14 años. We're assuming that it's talking about how old the brother is. But using the same process that we used a while ago, remember tengo, soy, and vivo are actually the first person conjugation of all the words. All right. TNS is the to conjugation of the verb tener. Eres is the to conjugation of the verb ser. So this is tiene, es, and nombre. But pretty much once you know they're asking about age, you know that we're going for tiene, okay? So mi hermano tiene 14 años. Yo, Gabriela. I think Gabriela is trying to introduce herself, no? So if Gabriela is trying to introduce herself, what would Gabriela say? She would say, yo soy Gabriela. Laura, mi prima. Laura something, my cousin. What do you think they're trying to say? I think maybe they're trying to say Laura is my cousin. Now, if they say Laura is my cousin, they'll be using a conjugation of the verb ser. Right? There are 2 conjugations of the verb ser. Well, 3 conjugations of the verb ser here. There's soy, there's es, and there's eres. Which one would we use? We will not be saying Laura soy mi prima because that is wrong. Laura is not the first person singular, right? Yo soy. We're not going to say eres either because Laura is not the second person singular, but Laura is actually third person singular. So it could be he, she, or usted. And then when we do that in the conjugation of the word, el, usted, we actually have, for the conjugation of the verb ser, it's es. For tú, it's eres. And yo, it's soy. So Laura es mi prima. Yo dash in Santa Lucia. I something in St. Lucia. Is saying I am in St. Lucia. It could be saying I am in St. Lucia. However, the word that we use to be localized or located, it's not in this section. It's not in this section. The word that we use to be located or to be localized is the verb that we use is estar. There's no conjugation of the verb estar in this box. So we're not even thinking that. We're thinking something else. Okay. Yo something. It has to be conjugated in the first person singular. What is conjugated in the first person singular? As we mentioned previously, there are only 3 words that are conjugated in the first person singular. There's vivo, there's soy, and then there's tengo. All right. So, I something in St. Lucia. I'm thinking that the person here is trying to say I live in St. Lucia. So, yo vivo in Santa Lucia. Okay? Oops. So, moving on. De donde something. Okay, so in this case, they're asking the person, where are you from? Okay? Where are you from? So they would actually say, de donde eres? Where are you from? Where are you from? Of where are you? More specifically pronounced, of where are you? And we would use a conjugation of the verb ser for this one because it's talking about where are you from? Of where are you? Where is your origin? Your origin will never change. If you're born in St. Lucia, no matter if you live in Canada or you live in the Middle East for 70, 80 years of your life, when they ask you where are you from, where are you originally from, that will never change. So we will not be using estar to describe where you're from. We'll be using the verb ser because it's a verb of permanency. All right? So, ¿cuántos años? ¿Cuántos años? Now, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, it just so happens that we have 8 things and we have to use 8 of the answers. However, if you could have repeated, you could have actually even said de donde es. Because you could be asking in the usted form, de donde es usted, or you could say de donde él es or ella es. Remember, we said that it's very important to have the article so you know exactly what you're talking about. So if somebody were to put de donde eres or de donde es, both would still be correct. But seeing how there was no mention to reuse the words in the instructions, since we've already used es in D, then we're going to just stick to using eres in F. ¿Cuántos años? In this case, we will be looking for, we're asking somebody how old are they. Say ¿cuántos años tienes? Alright? We can also say ¿cuántos años tiene? Which would be the formal way of saying it. Usted, ¿cuántos años tiene usted? Or ¿cuántos años él tiene? ¿Cuántos años ella tiene? But, like I said, there was no article in this one. So had you put ¿cuántos años tiene? It would have still been right. The only thing is, because it can only be used one place, whatever you put on the other side would have been wrong. And mi dash es Daniel. You guys should know what this one is. Straightforward, mi nombre es Daniel. Okay? Make the following words plural. Okay. In Spanish, when you're making words plural, you're pretty much adding an S at the end. Okay? So guess what? La familia. So familia. Put an S at the end. Madre. Madre. Put an S at the end. Niño. Niño. Put an S at the end. Niña. Niñas. Put an S at the end. But we're not done. Remember, we still have the articles in the front. So, if I'm making la familia into plural, and I've put it as familias, it would have to correspond to be las familias. Alright? Because familia is a word that is feminine. We turn it from feminine singular to feminine plural. La madre, we turned her into plural, so we're going to be saying las madres. El niño, we turn that into plural, we'll be saying los niños. And la niña, las niñas. Los niños and las niñas, okay? As simple as that. That's how you just conjugate the words. Well, that's how you turn the words into plural from the singular form. Remember, we're just adding S, but we have to also change the article as well to correspond with the word. Conjugate the verb ser in the present tense for each subject pronoun as follows. We did this already. We started doing it up here. So, and we also did it in class, but anyway. Ser, yo soy. Remember, present tense. As we move further, we're going to get into the different tenses. Tú, with the accent, remember, means eres. El, with the accent, means he. Es. El, ella, or usted es, nosotros o nosotras somos, and ellos, ellas, y ustedes son. Alright? So if that's said and done, guys, that's pretty much how we would have gone over the paper had you guys been properly prepared. A lot of the things that we did in this paper we've actually covered just in chapter 1. In chapter 1, during our time in class, we've actually covered section 3.4. We were able to cover the basis of what you would need to answer section 3.3. Fill in the blanks with the words from the box. You guys may not have got all, but you should have at least got a few from section 3.2. In terms of fill in the blanks with the correct form of the color, like I said, becoming familiar with the colors, learning the vocabulary would have helped you guys very well to answer this question. But also remember that when you're talking about plural words, the adjectives will be plural. Okay, so papeles. So whatever you're gonna say is gonna be plural. Blancos. Una pluma, it's singular, so the adjective will be singular. So that's what we mean. If it's a singular object, you use a singular adjective. If it's a plural object, it has to correspond with it. Okay. You guys may or may not have been able to do chapter 2. I'm not too sure how far in terms of counting and stuff you guys got, but based on what we've covered in class just this week, you should have been able to answer the entire section 1, the whole of section 3.4 and 3.3, okay, and some of 3.2. All right, so that's pretty much it. Okay, if you guys have any questions or any comments, put them in the Google Classroom. All right, so that's it for this paper.